Hi, I'm Michelle Stein, and I want to answer your questions. First, why am I interested in this program? About 2 years ago, I moved to Kansas, and my roommate slash cousin, she has her degree in education from Kansas State. She not only raved about the program, the content material, but she's also discussed the fact that it's so well respected that she's had many more employment opportunities than many of her compatriots that went to other schools. So that makes it an exciting prospect for me. The second piece is the program is laid out in a way that it's ideal for someone who's trying to transition. And I'm going from about 20 years of communications experience, and I'm really wanting to refocus and go into education and teaching, and it seems like this is the perfect program for that. Second question, my experience working with children. So there are a couple of different pieces here that I want to talk about, but the first is my favorite story. When I was a senior in high school, I had finished most of my credits at that point, and I decided I wanted to try something different. I approached my principal and said that I would like to take a sociology class. But what I wanted to do is actually go and help out at the elementary school across the street. Luckily for me, he thought this was a great idea. So my principal contacted the principal at the elementary school, and they said it would be extremely helpful because they had just had a teacher who had gone out early on her pregnancy leave. And so their English as a second language teacher was having to divide up her time in class. And so they said if I was able to come over and help her, that'd be fantastic. It was ideal. I went for an hour every day, and I was there teaching 6th grade math. I loved it. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed being able to work with students. And in particular, I enjoyed working with students who were struggling a little bit more. I like to be able to take the information and break it down and make it tangible for them. And one of the examples is there was a student, he was having trouble adding and figuring out if he was going to add this to that, is it really going to benefit him in the long run? And he was just having trouble looking at the numbers, but I knew he had a lot of interest in football trading cards. So one time I stayed back a little bit longer and sat down with him and said, let's add up your cards. And it seemed to make such a difference, and really to see him understand it and that little spark come about, that meant everything. I loved it. In addition, over the years, I spent a lot of time volunteering, Girl Scouts, after-school programs, pieces like that. And then another aspect, and this isn't specifically with children, but I do think it kind of gives an idea. When I was in graduate school, I worked in the retention program at the university. And I really enjoyed being able to meet with the students. I had a caseload of about 50 students a semester, and I would meet with them one-on-one once a week, and we discuss what's happening with their classes. I would also then talk with their teachers. I'd also talk with their family and see what we could do to make things a little bit better. And I enjoyed the interaction among all of those groups, and I think that would be extremely important in moving into an education field. You need to be able to identify and talk with your students to be able to provide them guidance and structure, but still be able to have empathy there and understand their individuality. Being able to work with my colleagues, I would love that opportunity. Being able to report appropriately to the administration, see what's happening. And then, of course, have the ability to have the connection between being a teacher and working with the parents, because it's not a one-to-one situation. It's an entire package, I think, moving forward. And I've really enjoyed that experience to date. And then last, a little bit more about why I think I'd be a good instructor. I'm highly organized. That's annoyed colleagues in the past, but I do believe that having that kind of structure, especially when it comes to curriculum, would be very important. It gives you solid goals. It lets you know where people need to be when, make sure people are moving along at the correct pace. They're getting the information that they need. I do think being organized is extremely important. I think I also have the ability to see how individuals need work as well. It's not a cookie cutter system. You have very strong outlines that you need to go with, but you need to be able to, see when things need to be adapted and changed. The best experience I've had in that, quite frankly, is working with junior staff. In every position I've had, Ultimately, I end up being the person who trains new and incoming staff, even if it's an area that, isn't my expertise. But lots of times people just need those early steps. They need to be able to feel confident. They need to be able to have somebody to fall back on and ask questions and feel comfortable and not feel like, they're going to be made fun of or anything like that. And I've always prided myself on being that person. I've always really enjoyed that opportunity. I think the last piece, and it's a little more intangible, but it's absolutely true. My enthusiasm for teaching is enormous, and it's been sparked even more recently. My nephew, who's 7 years old and in first grade, just moved to town last fall. And it's reinvigorated everything in me about how much I loved school and how much of that strength and basis does start in elementary school. And for me in particular, it's been based in science. I remember learning about the weather for the first time. And I couldn't believe all the stuff that went into it. And I remember the day I learned that clouds had different names. I thought that was remarkable, and I spent like the next 3 weeks just looking outside and pointing out to my mom all the different clouds that I saw, and I thought that was fantastic. And then I started watching the news because I just wanted to watch the weather at night, and my mom kept trying to put me to bed, and I kept sneaking out so I could look at the radar. And I also remember learning why she did not like it when I left the milk out and didn't put it in the refrigerator. I didn't realize there was a reason why that wasn't good. So all of the things that applied to you on a day-to-day basis that you just didn't know about, and then all of a sudden you would be learning these pieces in school. It was just fantastic. And for me, the biggest piece that's changed, my nephew loves science, in particular loves everything having to do with space. So between purchasing tons of things from NASA and wanting to set up specific little telescopes, he's training me every day on different pieces about space. The last thing we talked about was black holes, and he was explaining to me how they work, where they tend to be located, and some of the questions that scientists have moving forward. He's 7. But the fact that you can see that much joy and that much enthusiasm that young, I want to be able to be a part of that. Well, I hope I've answered all of your questions. Please feel free to send me an email or give me a call if you have any additional questions. Thank you.